Thank you, Andreas. You make me blush every time you put up that screen. It's really not that big of a deal. Let me try to share screen and all right, I think we're back in business. So the topic of today's presentation is the ALSZIAI issue, and just like any other local overprint, this one happened in the city of ALSZIAI in late June, and as opposed to most other overprints done in occupied Lithuania, this one was applied to the stamps by a hand stamp. As opposed to cliche overprinted in big sheets. Every stamp was individually overprinted by a hand overprint as the stamps were submitted for post, or covers were submitted for mailing, or philatelists brought the stamps to the post office to just put cancellation and overprint on them. So that's how all the mint stamps occurred. There was a whole bunch of Soviet Union stamps left in the post office from the Soviet Union time, and those were the ones predominantly overprinted. The fancier stamps were submitted for overprinting, mostly by philatelists. The pictures that you see here is the main issue that was overprinted by the post office authorities. That were these were the stamps that were on hand in the post office and that were used for regular mail. And there are 8 stamps of small denomination, 80 kopeek North Pole stamp, and the 1 ruble stamp. And of the 10 stamps, the 80 kopeek is the scariest ones to be found. 1 ruble is relatively uncommon, and 2 kopeek is relatively uncommon as well, and that reflects in their prices in the Mihail catalog and market prices. The North Pole stamp being probably the rarest of these all. So we don't know the quantity of this overprint, as they were just hand overprinted as they were presented. So nobody really kept count on how many were overprinted, but the larger stamps were clearly overprinted and can be found less frequently than the smaller stamps. This is the overprint itself. It was made of a steel plate, has 3 lines, LAISVI ALSŽDŽIAI, and the date June 24th. As the metal that was used for this overprint was relatively soft, and over the several months of use, daily use, it kind of wore off a little bit, and you can trace the deterioration of the plate and scratches on the overprint plate and so on, and that's kind of fun to research. But nevertheless, that's the overprint. And this, I had a piece of paper that I gifted to Tobias a few years ago, and this was just a sample of the overprint. So there are very few varieties of overprint, and this is the 3 known copies of inverted overprint. The one on the left was in the collection of Dr. Daniela for quite some time, and he was gracious enough to exchange with me, and I acquired it from him and in exchange. The second stamp is actually for sale right now. This week it's going on for sale at Kohler. So you could be an owner of one of them. There are only 3 available, and the third one was in Jonas Grigaliūnas' collection, and his son John had sold it back in, I'd say, 2008 or so. and it was for sale on Caller in 2019 and Feldsman in April of last year, and presumably sold. Don't know who has it now. So these are pretty rare. These are as rare, but the stamp itself of a small denomination and not as popular as the North Pole stamp. And there are also only 3 known to exist. The one on the left is in my collection. The one in the middle was sold by Caller in 2019. And right now you can actually buy it on eBay. It's up for sale, about just over $5,000, I think, for this stamp. And the last one was from the collection of late Rainer Bender. Also sold somewhere, I don't remember where his collection went up for sale. So this is one other variety that I've been chasing for a few years and eventually acquired it just recently. And that's that is actually not described in any catalogs. That's why I thought it would be really cool to have. It's a double overprint, and you can kind of see that it does look like a double overprint. You don't have to have too much magnification to see that. But that's, I guess, a new variety that will need to be described in one of the future catalogs. One other thing that I have mentioned that is not mentioned in Michael, but I have mentioned in Antanis's catalog, is the diagonal overprint. Thomas had sent me a picture of one just this morning, didn't you, Thomas? Yeah, a diagonal overprint. It's not all that rare, but it's kind of cute, and it's probably requires a premium if you are to buy or to sell it. But they're around. You can find one of them every now and then. The unaddressed cover on the top, and you can see the red arrow there that points to the bottom stamp. This is actually the same stamp, and it was cut out. So that cover doesn't exist anymore, apparently. And there is a 2007 Krishke certificate accompanying this cutout. So so somebody just took scissors and cut it all out, and so all those stamps are probably available as individuals now somewhere on the market. But as you can see, the diagonal overprint exists. It's the same overprint. There's nothing special about it. It's just kind of cute that it's put diagonally. So these 2 stamps, I find it fascinating, the story that comes behind them. Back many years ago, Dr. Daniela told me the story that he was a little boy in 1941 in Lithuania, and he was already collecting stamps. He was probably not even a teenager yet, maybe a teenager, and his mom received a couple of postcards from her friend with these stamps attached on them. So instead of saving the postcards, he ripped off the stamps and saved those stamps for the future. I think he still has them in his collection, but these were actually taken off of legit postcards that his mom received. So that's, I think it's a pretty neat story. The ALSŽDŽAI issue is good, but the covers with this issue are generally very, very pretty and beautiful, and quite expensive at it too. So this is a partial set of the overprinted stamps on philatelic covers. Most of the covers that survive since those days, as everything in occupied Lithuania, is philatelic, but there are a few and that are not, and we'll touch on that. So I tried to put together kind of all the covers that are known to me, but I'm sure there are probably a few more that I just haven't seen or had not put into my scans collection. So here are two covers with incomplete sets of standard overprints. And both of them, I believe, are of the making of Jonas Grigaliūnas, who was big on going to other towns and sending himself covers from different places with local overprints. And here is another one very similar to the other ones, and also goes to Buhalteria in Telšiai, which I believe was one of the addresses for Jonas Grigaliūnas. This is a pretty cool cover that I have acquired not too long ago on one of the Russian auctions. And it has a North Pole stamp on it, and it has appropriate franking, which is the 30 kopeck for regular postage, 30 kopeck for extra 20 grams, and 30 kopeck for registered cover, domestic registered cover, that is. So so it's 80, 5, and 5. And it's mailed to and presumably possibly by a pharmacist who lived in Telšiai, and there are a series of covers addressed to him from ALSŽDŽIAI, and he was a well-known and respected philatelist at the time. And I love how overprinting the stamps, they also put a stamper on the side, so you can actually see the exact stamper and the ALSŽDŽIAI, LAISVI ALSŽDŽIAI 24 June. So that's a pretty neat color. And of course, on the back, there is a receiving cancel from Telšiai. It was mailed on the 29th. It was received on the 30th of July. So this is a non-philatelic cover, and I really can't tell if it's legitimate or not. Something inside me tells me that it's probably a late forgery, but I really can't tell for sure without examining the stamps, and this is just the scan that I have. But I have a kind of doubt in my mind, and that's why I wrote this postcard is of questionable authenticity, and the rate is wrong, and the card itself is from like early 1900s times. It just, there are a few things that are wrong with this cover that makes me a little uncomfortable, but who knows. Now, this is probably one of my favorite covers from Telšiai. As simple as it looks, this is actually a commercial cover sent to Telšiai, and very legit, and with a row of 4 overprinted stamps, non-philatelic in nature, and really, really nice. So that was mailed on August 5th. Now, ALSŽDŽIAI overprint was made in philatelic purposes on stamps submitted by philatelists for overprinting, and we'll go over all known to me overprints on Soviet Union commemorative stamps. And this is from the 1939 Agricultural Fair exhibit. That's the only stamp that I know that is good, that exists. Now, this is from the same agricultural fair. There are 4 different stamps. The one on the left was sold in 2009 by Gardner Auctions, and I'm not certain if it's good or not. It may not be very good. But the second one was sold on Kohler in 2019. The other 2 are in my collection, and that's that. There is a stamp from the 1940 physical culture set, Soviet Union, and that was at one time in possession of Joseph Slubinski's. You remember this stamp, Joseph?
I do.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. It's a really nice example. It was uh, sold just a couple of years ago in caller auction again, and I was trying to buy it and I could not. Was outbid. But that's the only one known to me with this particular stamp. And this is the stamp from the same physical culture issue of 1940, and this is off cover. Well, no, it's not off cover. It's on the cover. It actually attached to the cover, but that's the only stamp of this nature known to me with overprint. This is from 1941 Red Army stamp, Red Army set. This is also from Red Army set from 1941. When I said caller 2019, there was a big sale at around 2018, 2019, and I don't exactly remember. It could have been a little earlier, but I write 2019 caller when I don't quite remember what year it is. But it was definitely sold on that auction. Here is same Red Army set. This particular stamp, it's quite popular. Also, a few forgeries of this stamp with overprint exist. This is from Air Academy, stamp overprinted, and this is the only one known to me. Karela Finnish, Soviet Republic, from 1941 issue. Kohler sold these two stamps, which sold for a lot of money, I remember, and that is from 1928 Lenin set. Again, I have never examined these stamps, and they look a little off, but of course the nature of the stamp itself is such that the overprint doesn't stick to it very well. So I would really love to examine these stamps for authenticity. They may be very well legitimate, but I really have not seen them in person. These are the two known stamps from 1941, large denomination definitives. And of course, we have to say that all 17 stamps from Agricultural Fair 1940 issue were overprinted, and you can find them every now and then. They are not very common, but most of them do exist in more than one copy, and they're expensive. These are just some more of the same stamps from Agricultural Fair. And I have to mention that there are at least two stamps known to me from the 1940 peace issue. These are the Lithuanian stamps overprinted with ALSŽDŽIAI, and one of them is on the cover. This is a beautiful, absolutely magnificent cover that was sold by Kohler in October of 2018, and this has a Tedebesh pair of two agricultural exhibit stamps. Of course, there are two different stamps and attached to each other, so that's kind of unique in itself. And on the back side of the cover, you can see the additional franking. This cover is greatly overfranked, and it was sent by Jonas Grigaliūnas. After you do this for a while, you tend to recognize the handwritings of different older philatelists, and this is Grigaliūnas's handwriting. And very nice franking, unusual, and beautiful cover altogether, in my opinion. And same as this. That's another beautiful car, and this is not Tedebesh stamps, but nevertheless, a pair of agricultural stamps is pretty nice, also by Grigaliūnas. all philatelistic, but beautiful nevertheless. And here we go. This is our pharmacist from Telshai, right? So there are a couple of covers. Interestingly enough, this cover was sold by Hans Grove Auction and Kohler in 2018, and canceled ALSŽIAI 29, but it does not have a receiving cancel from Telshai on the reverse. So this is a cover mailed by Dr. Mikulski, and I bought it from John Grigaliunas back in early 2000s for, at the time, lots of money, but nowadays for really very cheap. And that's a beautiful cover with two fairly rare and unique stamps on it. The Lithuanian overprinted, so it's kind of a mixed franking of Lithuania, independent Lithuania stamp, and the Soviet Union unusual, the only one known sports issue stamp. And these are the two more that come from a famous article by Dr. Klein, which Friedhelm was kind enough to translate for me a few years ago. But this cover on the left was sold maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I don't remember where, and I thought I had a color picture of it, but I don't. That's again a Teddy Besh pair, which is pretty nice. And the one on and the cover on the right, I never seen in person, or other than this particular cover, you know, black and white copy of it, again going to the pharmacist. And interestingly enough, look at the registered marks. It's 124 and 125. How cool is that? All right, we move on. So philatelic covers from ALSŽIAI also exist with other town cancels, other town overprints on them. And these are, of course, philatelic, and most of them are courtesy of Mr. Grigaliunas and Dr. Mikulski, but these are nevertheless very nice issues. Incomplete Telshai partial set on the registered covers, and the cover on the left has Telshai type 1 overprint. The cover on the right has pairs of type 3 over type 1 overprint, and here is one more. This is type 3 overprint from ALSŽIAI, and this was sold on eBay by John Grigaliunas in February of 2010. Don't know who has it now, but it's a nice purchase, whoever made it. Yeah, the one on the left here is in my collection. The one on the right, I don't know. I know it was sold by Kohler at one point, but I don't know who has it now. And this is the only one that I've ever seen, the Nepriklausoma Lietuva stamp set, the entire set on the cover from ALSŽIAI, mailed by Dr. Mikulski to himself, and I know that it's by him because that's his handwriting, right? So, and that's a very neat cover in my opinion. Beautiful, very philatelic, and interestingly, it was canceled in ALSŽIAI on the 26th of July and received in Telshai on the same day. Now, we cannot skip the big, huge topic of forgeries. ALSŽIAI overprint had been forgerized tremendously a lot, and some of the forgeries are very good. Others are pretty cruel, and a lot of research have been done more recently on this issue. So there are tons of expertized and verified stamps and items from ALSŽDŽIAI overprint issue that have older expertiser certificates and back stamps on them that are actually not very good. And this is an example of ALSŽDŽIAI, one of the agricultural stamps, with the back stamper of Keller BPP, and you know, the stamp is good, but the overprint is a forgery, and the cancel is a forgery as well. And some of them come with Krishke certificates and stuff like that. Oftentimes they're sold in as a set, and the other stamps in the set are pretty good, but there is a sneaky forgery there. 80 Kopek here is a forgery that was sold with the entire set here at one of the auctions, but there is a certificate for the entire set. So it looks legit, but again, the certificate is older, and you have to be very careful about them. But this one is actually a cruder type of a forgery that you can probably spot right away with a naked eye, as doesn't look quite exactly the same as the one on the top. And of course, forgeries of less expensive stamps are much more common, and there's all kinds of different forgeries. I just gave you a quick sample of the forgeries that I sent back to one of the philatelists who sent them for expertization. And forgeries exist on postcards and on covers. And by the way, as much as I learned the handwriting of the old experts and old philatelists, I also kind of familiar with some of the handwritings of the forgers as well, and these are quite typical. So you can see these forged overprints and forged cancels on top, and here is another card that is a complete forgery with Kaunas receiving hand stamp, which is also a forgery. And there is some more with Jonas Mikulski's. All of that is a complete and utterly fake. The overprints, the cover, the stamper, the registration marker, and the cancel itself. Now, when we do expertizing of this issue, we have to evaluate the stamp, the cancel mark, as well as a stamper. And as you can see, this is the ALSŽDŽIAI B cancel pre-war, and this is from 1942. And there are some changes to the cancel that happen over the years, and that helps verify if it's legit or not in terms of the timing of it. So those are examples that we use in expertizing. And then, of course, as I had mentioned before, the metal of the overprint itself goes from you know, early July, where it's really pretty crisp and pristine, and goes through, you know, you can verify it later in July, going into August and September, and a late overprint. The interesting thing about this overprint, as it was confirmed later in literature, it survived through after the war, and after the war in the late 40s was mailed to Estonia, together with a few other hand cancels, including some of the Estonian ones, and were held in the museum in, I believe, in Tallinn somewhere, before it traveled back to Moscow for further safekeeping. But the fact that it was in private hands after the war kind of makes some of those overprints less legit. And that's why, number one, you have to really spend time examining the ink of the overprint. examining the wear of the hand stamp, and sometimes, of course, you know, the very well worn overprint with a date that is rather early cannot happen. So there are few things that we do when we do expertising and evaluating the legitimacy. And that's one of the things that I do when I expertise. I overprint overlay technique, where I put the stamp in question right next to the known overprint. You have to always compare it to the known legitimate overprint, otherwise you could be comparing to another forgery. So so you lay them right next to each other, so there is no error in scanning and size of the overprint. And then I use Photoshop to overlay one on top of the other, and as you can see, the black and the green from the green is from the stamp on the right, the black is from the original overprint, and they match pretty much perfectly. So what do you guys think? Is this a forgery or a good stamp? So the stamp is this stamp from the agricultural, I guess, not agricultural, the сельскохозяйственный exhibit. Whatchamacallit? Well, the horse stamp. The horse stamp is right next to the known overprint of about the same wear on the right. This overprint is actually, you can see, is from September, so it's really late overprint. The last day officially of overprinting was June 31st, but some of the philatelists, you know, were able to put this down in September. So this is a really late overprint that you see on the right here, and the goods and the good overprint on the right, and the overprint that we're studying on the horse is on the left. And here is the overlay. So what do you think?
So is the overlay color the white one?
So the overlay here is the white one, or the silver one is the actual original overprint off of this stamp transferred onto the horse. And you can see the black in the background there, and here is the original overprint on the horse stamp.
So the question is if the white one is falsification.
No, the white one is an original overprint off of the cover.
So I would
and
say,
I moved the original overprint over the one in question.
so I would say this is forgery.
Yeah, very good. Very good. It is a forgery indeed, but it's really good. If you look at some of the cuts in the overprint, like this letter A, see here on the top, it's cut perfectly, very much similarly. But they don't match. And here's an example of another one of the similar type. The stamp on the left is laying right next to the legitimate overprint on the cover. And you can see on the right, when I align the letter A to the left, the original overprint is just so little bit smaller than the one on the stamp. And when I align the letter I, doesn't quite fit. And of course, the size is exactly the same because it's off of the same scan. So this is a very well made forgery of the overprint, but boy, is it close. There are some more of the overlays that I have done, and that's what I do as part of the expertising. The very important part is actually examining the ink and the quality and the structure of the ink in the overprint. And I have to admit that back in 2014, I have issued this certificate that came back to bite me a couple of times. And for some of you who don't know me, other than expertising, I do surgery, and I do some heart surgery, and I get patients ask me, "Doctor, how many have you done, and have you had any complications?" And the usual physician's answer to "have you had any complication" is, of course. If you have a doctor who tells you that he's never had a complication in his entire career, that means one of two things: either he lies to you, or he just haven't done enough surgeries to not have complications. So I have to admit that this is one known to me, and there could be more, of course, we're all human, but this one is out there. It's actually in Lithuania right now, and that's late. It's not a forgery, as a matter of fact. What it is, it's a late overprint that was made off of the original stamper after the war. And the ink on this stamp is a little off. It has all the right cuts and sizes, and that's what confused me back in 2014. But it's I asked. I know that had changed hands a couple of times, and every time I asked people to send it back to me, but I think they paid a lot for it, and they would never get rid of it, and it keeps on passing on. So I just wanted to warn you guys, if you come across this certificate, that is that this one is not very good. And with that, this is on the topic of expertising. This is a small sample of my forgeries collection. And as you can see, they're all different kinds. Yeah. And the expertising of this issue is mandatory. And that's the end of this presentation. We just lost one of the most loved philatelists in the world, and of course Queen Elizabeth. The day before my grandmother passed away, and I was the whole family was pretty upset. She almost made it to 100, but not quite. We were very fortunate to have her around, and the next day Queen had left us too. So that's the end of the overprint of the end of the presentation. Hope you liked it.
Very good.
Thank you, Vitaly. Terrific presentation, as terrific and thorough, very illustrative. Personally, I didn't know that there were so many LAISVI overprints and so many different stamps. I was only focusing on the kind of main, the polar, North Pole, and 1 ruble stamps and those other things. But somehow I just was completely ignorant to miss the fact that there were so many other ones. Thank you very much for bringing this presentation to us.
Yeah, I've made 2 additions, if you might look into the chat. So one is, there was a question in which auction a certain stamp was sold, and from 2080 on, you can see it on the web page of the Köhler auction house. So I could just show you this. Which one is it? Just a second. This is the Chrome. Yeah. So this is the website of the Heinrich Köhler auction house in Wiesbaden, and in the menu you can see auctions archives, and in the English version, of course, too. Yeah, and then you can find which item is sold and which not. Of course, they don't show the name of the person who buys something, but you can see the results. You can see for which price something was sold. So, and the other is you said you don't know about the collection of Rainer
Yeah,
Bender.
of Rainer Bender. He may have been sold on Schlegel. I don't quite remember where exactly his collection sold, but it almost doesn't matter that much.
So this is also something I can show you because we have this in our web. I remembered the name. So this was in a Köhler auction. They made an own catalog just for the complete collection of Rainer Bender in 2012. Unfortunately, this is not shown on the web, so you don't see the results. You cannot see if this specific item was sold or not. Yeah.
By the way, I have to tell you guys, Rainer Bender was an excellent expertiser, very knowledgeable guy, and extremely pleasant to work with, to share experiences and information. And he was kind of a breath of fresh air in the expertising world, dominated by Klein and Krischke at the time, who would be very difficult to work with, would never explain things. And Rainer was as open as any expertiser or collector or anyone could be. And I've learned a lot from him. So he is a great man.
All right, anyone who wants to comment? Sorry, go ahead.
Fredheim, thank you very much for sharing this.
Yeah.
I will use that link to Kohler auctions in the future. That may be very helpful.
Yeah.
Can you do search of their auctions for, say, put in the search engine ALSŽDŽIAI, and they'll show all the stamps or covers that they sold with that name?
I personally don't buy at auctions, so you just go to the website and try it. I think you can find a lot when you click on the auction results of a specific auction, and especially if you know the auction item number, or you know the systematic of
Right.
in which order they presented all the stuff. So you can scroll and look until you find a specific item. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to play with that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible to search whole website. You go to Google search, you put your keyword, and when you type site, double dots, and the name of a website, and it's possible to search all the auctions at one time.
Mm. Oh wow, yeah, I'm gonna need to try that, because Cherrystone makes it very easy to search their auction house for anything you want. You can do either Google search or their auction site search, and incredibly easy.
Vitaly, you can do search. I was looking for some Rossini last few times, and you know it pulls out some additional information from previous auctions. I don't know how detailed the search is, whether it returns every single hit or just the kind of the most recent ones. You need to try, definitely.
Well, anything is better than nothing, right? All right. Well, do you guys have any questions? I'm surprised you don't. If you don't, because there are just so many unclear things about the subject of ALSŽDŽIAI.
I guess everyone is overwhelmed.
No, nothing ever overwhelms Vigintas, and he always has questions. I'm surprised. He's just holding it to himself. That's what it is.
Well, in all your overprints, you can easily determine not two types, but different letter A. Some are without cut on the top, and some with a cut on the top. 30 years ago, even earlier, I was told that. Then at the beginning, then they made overprint by hand, some corners of overprint appears on the stamp, and they decided to cut a little bit those gum from overprint, and they little bit detached to letter A. So I never collected you know, overprint stamps, though I had in my collection pieces of sheets, 16, 8, 12, you know, those small nominal values, this ALSŽIAI overprint. And you can, it was from the beginning of printing, and they add the corners on the stamps. So have you ever examined, or what is your opinion on such a rumors? Or
Is that what you're talking about?
yes, exactly. One is from earlier and another later.
Correct. The one on the left is from early overprinting.
Yes.
And you see the letter A has no cut on it, and this letter A is perfectly straight, and you can see the sides that were not trimmed off yet.
Yes.
And this is a later overprint, the inverted one that has few more cuts, has this check mark over Z, a little hole in it, as you would see on a lot of them, a cut in the letter A, cut in the letter A, and all, and of course the sides are not as noticeable. So that's exactly it. See, I tell you, Vygintas knows everything about everything. He just doesn't share it as much. You have to try him.
So let me ask you again. So when was this frame removed?
So the very early overprint that you see on the left is pretty pristine. So there are no, the plate itself, it has no wear on it, and it's very well made. All the letters are crisp, and but the sides of the overprint, because it was just a hand stamp, you can see that they print out on the sides of the overprint. So then they start the cleaning process, and they got rid of some of this, so it doesn't imprint on the stamps.
No, I understand. I was wondering if that happened during the first few days, or happened like a month later.
It happened fairly early, early. Yeah. But even on the old overprint, like you see on the right-hand side, you can still make out some of the margins of that overprint sometimes. See those? Right there.
Yeah. So, but in general, Vitaly, it was nice presentation. Thank you very much. You know, as always, you are doing quite deep analysis and presenting us a lot of information. So, thank you very much.
Well, I'm glad you guys enjoying it, and it's good to hear that you like it.
So I have a short note to make, Vitaly, about the double printing you showed. You said it was new and not mentioned in the Michel. And we discussed this in Germany, and it's a little bit difficult, because this double printing looks, for me, we call it in Germany Schmitzdruck. And this is the result when it's a letterpress process. When the printing pressure is too high, then it will wiggle on the paper, and so you get it looks like a double imprinting, but is only one process, and in this process the printing machine wiggles on the paper, and you see you have a shade in the same direction for all letters. And audience can you open my desktop? I will show an example from the third counters issue.
I don't think I can do it. You need to go to share and then just try to see if you can. What's the English term of that term? Was it kiss print? Is that the one that is?
Yeah, that's
Kiss
exactly
print.
what
Okay.
it is. But it's usually described in machine printing, just like what Martin said, where there's a press going down on the stamp, on a sheet of stamps and all that. Well, this is not machine printing. This is a hand print.
Yes,
So
but
that's a little different.
But the process is the same. If you have too much pressure from the hand, it's equal, whether the machine makes the pressure or your hand. Because on cancellations, you see this again. We have cancellations, modern cancellations, old cancellations, who have this wiggled picture. It's a matter of pressure.
Martin, look for the share screen, kind of large green bottom at the bottom of the page.
Yes, I have it. So
then you need to find the window. Yeah, okay.
You see a lot of examples, I think. So I take this. You see Schmitzdruck, Tens Gatiku Pastas. This stamp on has this shadows to the left, and this is I had asked professional printing. A printer in the biggest printing house in north of Germany, and I showed him this example, and he told me we called it Schmitzdruck. That's too high pressure in the printing process, and if you have a double printing, you must take the stamp twice through the printing machine. That doesn't happen here. And here's another example. It's from the German Democratic Republic, so-called. And you have here a police vehicle made from IFA, and you have these shadows on the left. And this is this Schmitzdruck. How do you call it in English?
Kiss print.
Kiss print. Yes, and in Germany, it's a matter of definition, and the philatelics in Germany are very it's very serious. So double printing must have the stamp in the printing machine twice, and this kiss printing is only once in the printing process. So your example looks for me like a kiss printing. That's a very good example. So because it's unique, but for the technical definition, it's not a double printing. So it's my short note. Sorry.
Well, I would agree with you, Martin, in the sense that this stamp certainly was not, the postal worker didn't strike it twice for certain, because that's way too close for a hand stamp to strike twice with, half a millimeter of a distance and all that. So yes, for sure it was a single strike. Nevertheless, it semantics, I think.
It's the German philately. It's German philately.
Well, but you can, when you search for the expression Schmitzdruck, there are a lot of discussions if it's a double printing or Schmitzdruck or Quetschdruck, where Quetschen means squeezing, bruise, squish, squash, whatever verb is correct, yeah. But it's always if you have too much pressure on it, yeah. And there's a lot of discussions because there seem to be a lot of stamps from all over the world where this happens.
That's a very good discussion.
Also, I would like to show one photo, if it's possible to share it.
Yeah, go ahead. It's open to everyone.
Okay, it's first time I'm doing it.
At the bottom of the page, look for green large.
Do you see this?
It's loading up. Yes.
Yeah, so this is a post office of ALSŽDŽIAI. It was built in interwar period and was functioning like to this day almost. It was closed a couple of years ago, I think. So it is the same building in which post office was working during interwar period. At least post office workers said that when I visited it a couple of years ago. And it was built specifically for postal use, this building.
How cool is that? Thank you very much, Damantas, for sharing this. That's awesome.
Yeah, so just to go back to a KISS print. So every time I'm looking for some explanations or something to brush up, I usually find this book, which is Fundamentals of Philately. And there's a section on the KISS print, basically says that it happens when paper flapping against the ink printing base. Sometimes it's used as a slurred print. So sometimes another term is used, slurred print. So yeah, it is kind of, pretty thick book, and I suggest whoever finds it, please buy it. It's very useful.
By the way, what's the general feeling about these June overprints? I love the subject, but maybe it's boring to most of us.
I think it's a terrific topic. I mean, it broadens your understanding about philately in general. Of course, about specifically Lithuanian philately, you start paying attention about details, overprints, forgeries. I think it's absolutely useful for anyone. I think anyone who has been collecting for many years, or anyone who is just joining, philatelists. At least that's my opinion.
I would agree. I am relatively new to Lithuanian philately. I tend to come from a kind of Third Reich Germany perspective, but I guess I'm always slightly fearful of the overprints in view of the number of forgeries that are around. I did purchase some on eBay, which I now look at very dubiously, but thankfully they weren't too expensive. So it was kind of like just getting something to represent the period in my collection. So if I ever do any local presentations, it always gives me something to kind of show in that respect. But very interesting. I mean, it's my first Zoom meeting, and I've got to say I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you, Vitaly.
Oh, you're welcome. And welcome to the Zoom of Lithuanian Philatelic Society.
And Gary, please keep in mind that you can, take advantage of being LPS member, asking Vitaly to give his opinion on your purchases and basically doing expertising of these issues on other issues. Sorry, Vitaly, it's extra work for you, but that's what we're here for.
Yeah, no, that'd be really good. I dare say they might turn out to be dubious, but I'll live with that one.
And Vitaly, I just collect Estonian things, yeah, but it's a gain for me each time you present something. I learned so much also for Estonian philately.
Well, we'll convert you.
Yes, absolutely.
Estonian overprints, by the way, are, in my opinion, no easier and maybe even harder in some respect. There are tons of forgeries of those as well, but there is some very good, interesting history behind a lot of them. the occupational material.
I probably bought some of those on eBay as well.
Maybe next Zoom meeting, I'll show you, Freelam, some a very interesting item I recently acquired for Estonian occupation material, which I'm sure you've never seen before.
I'm impressed with your bandwidth availability, you know, to handle more than Lithuanian stamps.
My heart is in Lithuania, though.
Anyone else wants to say something, to share something? Anything, not necessarily June issues related?
So
Yeah.
Thomas, as I had mentioned to you in the chat, you're welcome to send the stamps in. I have doubts about the agricultural exhibit. It was Tajikistan on one of those stamps, but the diagonal overprint looked pretty good from the first glance. But again, I can tell crude forgeries just looking at them. But when it's a well-made overprint, I really can't tell without examining it, as you know, comparing it, looking at the ink properties and stuff like that. But send them in.
Thank you, Vitaly, for the good, very good presentation, and for this example what I have sent to you. And now we are discussing with my colleague what to do to buy, not to buy, like this. So for the moment, I don't get on my hand that example.
Okay.
This is the diagonal overprint, but I think.
Yeah. Well, if I was facing an issue of buying or not buying, I would not buy the agricultural exhibit stamp. But if you can buy it on the premises that the seller agrees that you're going to send it out for expertization, and if it's not good, you know, you
Okay.
can get your money back or something like that. A lot of auction houses allow for that, and most people, most collectors would too.
Yeah, thank you, Vitaly, and I will think about it.
In general, guys, we have a rule that if we receive material for expertizing and it's felt to be forged, I put a stamp on it that it's a forgery Lithuanian and forgery LPS. However, I have had requests in the past from philatelists not to put the stamper on the back because it's not their material. They are getting it from someone and they will only purchase it in the case it's legitimate, and they have to return it. And in which case, you know, I agree and not put a stamp on the back, although it kind of goes against our rule, but I understand that.
I think the idea is to weed out all those forgeries.
Well,
right? Especially most expensive ones.
I know it is, but on the other hand, you know, if I'm borrowing a stamp from an auction, if I bought a stamp at an auction house that has several certificates, you know, with it,
Sure.
and I send it, and somebody just slaps a forgery, you know, on it, you know, I'm not going to be sending it and risking it.
Sure.
Just to know, BPP rules are the same, yeah? They're obliged to print a falsification mark on it.
But they also oftentimes don't if they're asked not to.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's always a touchy subject, kind of.
A few words. Just I checked out the Lithuanian Post Office site, and it seems that ALSŽDŽIAI post office doesn't exist at the moment. Just the post box.
Yeah, I think it was closed 2 years ago, because 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, a lot of post offices were closed, and at that time, I managed to visit it before its closure and took that photo.
That's nice that you did a photo. That's very good. It's for remembering. So in July, it was almost 50 post offices closed this year. So concerning this, how to say, postmarks, this will be, how to say, difficult to collect them, because Lithuanian Post does not use for incoming post on the backside. There is no any postmarks more at the moment, and it seems that they don't like to use at all, just labels. For them it's enough. No, for us, of course not, but what to do? It's a pity.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I think there's the same thing that's happening all over the world. You know, American Post had not been using receiving cancels in a long time now. And lately you can see stamps and whole letters and covers coming through the mail without ever being canceled at all. Because nowadays they go through the scanners, and if they have the fluorescent markings and all, they just go right through without necessarily being canceled.
You can, yeah, go ahead, Martin.
Vitaly, sorry, it took some time to find it. I have a question to the cancellation ALSŽDŽIAI. I made a book together with the Vitaly about these cancellations, and there we have an example that used to be a forgery and an original example. So I give my desktop free. Do you see this? ALSŽDŽIAI B.
Yes.
And that what I learned, and I discussed it with the Mr. Vogelevičius, he said, if there's no cut in the outer circle, it's fake, and
that's
if
correct.
It's cut out, it's original.
That's correct.
Okay, and even in the early cancellations, 39 or so, this cut out.
Yes, and I don't remember seeing cancellations from 1939 and all without the cutout. I think it was made specifically for those occupational material stamps that's forged cancel.
Yeah. Oh, clear answer. Thank you. That's good.
And of course, you can see your dates on it are quite incorrect. The ALSŽDŽIAI B cancel exists from way before 1941 and way after 1941.
Mm-hmm.
So the before and after dates are off. As actually I found on a lot of those, I studied a lot of cancels out of your book, and not to diminish at all the absolute phenomenal work that you've done, but the dates really got to be updated.
So for this cancellation, you say it early 41 till?
It's actually, this cancel exists in 1939, and it goes up to 1942 is the latest, and I don't have the exact dates right now, but it's
Okay.
from 39 to 42, to
Yes.
my knowledge.
Yes. Okay. I've written it in my book. Thank you.
Delmontes, do you think you can share in the chat that picture of the post office? It's such a great picture. I'd like to save it.
Okay, I will try to do it.
I think go to chat.
Yeah, I'm already there.
Okay, question is, can you attach the file? I don't know.
Yeah,
I think there is an attachment.
yeah, and the photo date is 2019 September.
There we
I don't
go.
see an option. Okay, it is good. I remember I've seen it somewhere online. There was some attempt to collect pictures of post offices in Lithuania, some photographs. I don't know if I don't remember where it was. If somebody has a link, I think would be good to have.
Thank you very much. I just saved this one. Especially the way they're disappearing nowadays, it's probably a good collecting topic.
Well, if we don't have any other topics to discuss or to share, perhaps we should call this meeting adjourned. And I hope to see you in October. I will work hard to find the next speaker.